Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation! Good evening and welcome back to Computerized Start Live. I'm your host, Justin D. Morgan. It is the last stream in February, and I was going to look at the PlayStation 2, but then an Amazon order arrived yesterday, and I said, no, we gotta do something else to close out the month of February. So, let's see who we have in the chat to help me close out the month of February. We have SadMac356. Hi, SadMac. Hopefully things are less broken today. We have Hardware Hacker agreed. Hello, Hardware Hacker and SadMac. We have Got Bomb Tech. Hi, Jason. Yes, I am just in time again tonight. And it looks like you all were chatting right as I was trying to find a Pentium 200mmx that I know I have around here somewhere. Probably on a motherboard. We have CDM Big Mike. Hi, Big Mike. Saying Justin is never late. He arrives precisely when the show should begin. Yes, indeed. We have SJBrian.exe. Hi, SJ. Alright. Bring on Marchintosh, says Hardware Hacker. Alright. So we got the coffee goal. Link is in the description. And because I know you all can read the title, I swap topics. Looks like we have a Super 7 motherboard on the bench again, and probably wondering, what does my Amazon order have to do with this board? Unless you remember that this board does not support the Plus AMD CPUs. Unless you do a mod on it. So we are going to do the mod, because I ordered so that I could get them. So I could maybe get them before the month was over. I ordered some 1K 1% resistors. Those look like the code on them might match the code that I've seen pictures of. We will, we'll double check the code here, but it should be brown, black, black, brown, brown. Alright, we will check the code on an app, because I just remembered where my voltmeter is, and I am not going to go get it. So, instead, I will confirm codes with let's see here. Component resistor codes. Let's see here. 5 bands. We have brown, black, black, brown, brown. Yep, there we go. Oh, thank you, Hardware Hacker. VCF East Mega Dono. I'll see you there. All right, thank you, Hardware Hacker. Yeep. All right. We're getting close to that goal. I can almost smell the Vinny's restaurant there in Wall. There's a, yeah, I don't think the Vinny's, there's usually a Italian place that's a show sponsor, but yeah, the Vinny's that's in Wall is a nice small place. They got seating. If I could ever get a video out, you'll see, or if you go find the video on, I think, Brandon Bishop's channel, the impromptu video we did after eating there, and then Chris got directions with Waze, and Waze gave us some really weird driving directions. So there is, it's a video, and yeah, a Retrotech Chris, Brandon Bishop, myself, I think Kevin Moonlight might have been in the car, and Chris just starts giving us the realtor tour of the trailer park that Waze, for some reason, gave us directions into. I mean, it was a really nice trailer park. But it's the impromptu-ness you get among friends when Waze gives you just really weird driving directions, because they're the trailer park was it had a little, it's a loop. It's not like it was sending us down a road that you drive through the trailer park to get to it. Its road is a loop. It I think Waze spazzed out. It was kind of funny. It was, might have been one of those you had to be there moments, but anyways, hi Thomas Armstrong, welcome. All right, so what are we going to do here? So there is a mod that I don't know who initially figured it out, but apparently if you add a pull-up resistor to one of the cache lines on the socket, then the AMD Plus CPUs will work. Hi, Jesse, welcome. And I am going to bring that webpage up because I need to see the picture of the socket. Anyways, to prevent the resistor leads from potentially shorting something, I am going to apply some Kapton tape underneath where the resistor is going to go. And all right. Let me find the, oh, there we go. There is the picture I'm looking for. So this is the mod we are going for. So I am going to put my board on the bench in the same direction as this photo. Close as I can get it. And so I want to apply some Kapton tape in this lower right-hand corner. All right. Oops, there we go. So it looks like some tape here. And I meant to bring some scissors downstairs, but I forgot to. So let's see if I can't cut a somewhat respectful piece without scissors. All right. Now let me see if I can cut this piece down a little bit. All right. Now, this piece of tape should... Oh, all right. I think I need to trim that down just a little bit more. That should be more than big enough, but well, that's okay. All right, so now, the most important thing is I should have covered the solder via on both sides that the resistor leg is going to be near. So now, hi Jesse, I8386SX. If I missed you, I can't remember. Got a single track mind. I'm trying to mark for soldering. More importantly, I'm trying not to miss mark, because if I miss the mark, I could fry a potentially valuable CPU. So, let's see here. Let me zoom in with the microscope here, so I can maybe count the... Alright, so let's see here. So, I am... So, alright. So, counting from... 1, 2, 3... 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So, let me find a pointing device here. So, this via here is kind of on the horizontals. So if I start counting up, because there's two vias. Yep, so there's the two vias. I'm looking at the photo here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So the pin I want to solder to on this side is the CPU pin, surrounded by these two traces here, and it's between these two vias. So I want to solder to this pin here. Now, the best way to mark that would be probably a narrower tip marker, but there we go. So now I got a green mark. Not the most visible mark. It should be visible. I kind of would like to find... I thought I had a fine point Sharpie down here at one point. Maybe I... You know, I might have swiped it. It is exactly the type of pen I like signing credit cards with. I may have swiped it and taken it upstairs to sign my... replace my card or something. Alright. Promise this will get slightly more exciting at some point. So we're going to solder to that pin there, as denoted by that really poor mark there. I wonder if these paint pens would stick better. Probably be a bit more visible. Actually, you know, that is not really that much more visible. All right, let's count over the other pin, and then maybe I'll just bend the resistor over. All right, so back counting from this via here, the other pin is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 vias over, and then down. It'll be the I'll show you here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's that pin right there. This one here. So that's where we need to go to. So this pin here is 3.3 volts. One of the 3.3 volt pins. So, yep, that's the IO voltage, one of the IO voltage pins. And then this pin here is the right through cache line or something like that. So basically what we are doing, all right, that is much more visible when zoomed out than when zoomed in. What we are doing is we are basically installing a pull-up resistor. And actually, given that the pull-up resistor that the instructions say to add is a 1K ohm, that is actually what I would call a decently strong pull-up resistors, because usually a pull-up resistor would be something like um maybe a 10K, or well, 10K would be a good one for like a 5-volt signal. So now what I'm going to do is, because this needs to be all right. There we go. I'm holding the resistor. I am trying to find my solder. I think I slipped. No. Yeah. 1, 2. Yep. I should be in the right place. Right there. And there we go. I will have to go. I forgot to bring my voltmeter downstairs. I'll have to go get it because I definitely want to check that for shorts before I power this board up. Or at the very least, we'll look at it under the microscope. But there we go. That should be the correct pin. Let's check with the microscope. Double check. All right, so put our board here 90 degrees to the camera. So we want to count up from that last horizontal via there. We want to count up 3 vias, and then it should be that first CPU pin between the third and the fourth via going vertical. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's our pin. And that is not the bestest of looking of solder joints, but that does appear as if I have soldered that resistor on and I have not bridged anything. So I'm going to call that a win. It may not be the best looking, but that's a win in my book. And that's pretty solid. I may actually put just a touch of something on the body of the resistor just to try to keep it in place, but then again, I'd be afraid if I used hot glue that it might melt in normal use, so maybe I won't. All right, so here's our mark. Our other pin here is this pin here. Let me see if I can bend the lead. I want to leave the one lead exactly where it was, and I want this to go right there. I'd like to tack this one right about there. And I think I will go ahead and, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and pre-cut the lead. There we go. That's where we want it. All right. Yeah, as Harder Hacker says, it doesn't have to look good. It just has to work. Yep. Good way of putting it. Also, I did a little research, and based on the research I did, I'm willing to try to run my 2-volt K6s, K6-2s at 2.1 volts. Apparently, they run fine at 2.1 volts. This board doesn't have a 2-volt setting. There we go. I think that looks good. All right, let me see. Is that actually secure? I just am going to push gently. I don't know about that. I think I may, not sure I actually soldered that. Okay, I think that's actually soldered now. All right, I'll go. I can say, but I will neither confirm nor deny. Oh, it looks good enough for government work. I can say that, but I will neither confirm or deny the reason why it says hardware hacker. Fair enough. All right, I think that's our mod. So, all right, double checking one last time. So we've got the pin that is between this third and fourth via there, and then on this other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 6, and then the 6V is kind of under the leg there, and that first leg there. Although I think if I missed it by one on, yeah, but there's our trace that's going diagonally that's also beside that pin. Okay, we're good. That is the correct locations. So locations are good. All right. That looks good. Looks decent. Not my best work, but it's functional. All right. All right. We're Kempum says, "Holy moly! I think you might need a bigger resistor." I I was going to order a smaller resistor, but that would have taken an extra day to get here, and it would have cost more. Go figure. Go figure that the quarter watt resistors that would have been physically smaller and still been totally fine were like $5.99 and took an extra day to get here. The half watt ones were only $3.99 and I got it a day sooner. As I think the British would say, the maths added up. All right. I know normally I like to carefully test things on this channel, but I am feeling too lazy to go grab my voltmeter. So I have put a absolutely generic K6-2 processor in here. It's 2.2 volt. It is not a plus processor. It's not a 3. It's definitely not a 3 plus. Um, yeah, that 3 plus, I paid enough for it that it is not going to be the unlucky test subject. All right, let me go ahead and set this board for, let's see here. This is a 2.2 volt processor, which means I want 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Basically, I need to flip these two. Up says, oh, Soccer Wrench says, oh, they can't. Yeah, actually, maybe that is it. Maybe the quarter watt ones are more popular, so supply and demand. That could be it. All right, so we got 2.2 volts, and let me go ahead and set the multiplier. Of 5, 2, 3. So it is 1, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3. I don't know why all the tables on this motherboard are backwards. Yeah, we're just gonna smoke test this. There we go. 1, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3. All right. Frontside bus was already set to 100. All right. AGP graphics. Oh, I need a power supply. There we go. All right. So for the initial power up, I'm just going to. We'll just do motherboard. I'm not going to bother to hook any drives up or anything. There we go. I will hook up the processor fan. Just in the event I did actually manage to fumble the voltage or something. That way, at least there'll be some cooling on the processor. I will, though, hook up the keyboard. And we will hook up monitor. But I'm not going to hook up the drives. Because I kind of got to remember where I put them after the last time. All right. All right, not. So, which power cord is All right. Assuming I plugged the correct power in. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the right one. All right. Um, Smoke test in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mm, hold, please. Is that the right power cord? Oh, no, that was not the right power cord. All right. One of these days, I'm going to remember to order some new power cords that are two very different colors. Lime green for left, or lemon maybe. Lemon for left, yellow, and red for right. And that's only because there's a left outlet and a right outlet that are on my smart switch, and I need some way to remember which is left and which is right. And since I don't want to seem political, I will go for colors that are not overtly political. I would also be open to a different color suggestion for the right outlet, but red is the first color that comes to mind that begins with R. Sean, Jean-Francois Paré says, light brown for left, dark beige for right. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to help me remember. Yeah. But anyway, I will find. Well, it also has to be colors that power cords come in, which is, I mean, I do think they do come in lime green. I think I've seen power cords in lime green. I know they come in red. I know they come in yellow. But some of the other colors is. Pump says orange for left, orange for right. So I'm just trading 2 gray cables for 2 orange cables. Got it. I mean, I could do something. Okay, why didn't I think of this? I could do a blue cable for the left and a yellow cable for the right, and I'll let you all figure out where that one comes from. Roll that famous logo animation. Sadmax says, colored electrical tape. Yes, I could do that too. That would be cheaper. However, electrical tape can fall off. It's doubtful that the color on the power cord will just fall off. Although, if there was someone that would be on my list of making that happen, it would be me. I'm sure I would find a way. As Ian Malcolm in the famous dinosaur movie says famously, life finds a way. I'm sure I can find a way to make the insulation come off of the cable. Hopefully not in the XKCD type scenario. Although, admittedly, that could be fun. Colored zip ties, yes, I could. All good suggestions. And maybe just putting something colored on the end of the power cords I have might actually be for the best, because I'm actually scared of most power cords Amazon sells, because are they actually copper or are they like aluminum? Are they actually the gauge they say they are? There's a lot of cheap cords coming with electronics these days. I'm sure most of them are fine, but some of them give me pause. All right, I am looking for the hard drive and the GoTech. And I'm fairly sure what I've done is I moved them because I was making room for the PlayStation 2. So let me go to find my. Here's the embarrassing. So I'm going to go to find my. It's probably going to tell me that my GoTech is like with me. Yep. Oh, there it is. I see where I put it. I didn't actually put it that far away. Okay. So, it looks like I haven't. Hardware Hacker says, back in my day, a hard drive was a drive down a really bumpy road. Just kidding, I'm not that old. Yeah. I mean, I remember. I still remember when the hard drive was to Grandma and Grandpa's house. Because up until, yeah, I think up until I was in, I can't remember if it was like my senior year of high school or if it was like my freshman year of college. But up until about that time point, they actually still lived on a dirt road. And it could get pretty rutted out after a good rain. Because it was pretty, quite legitimately a dirt road. Then they moved to their last house, so, and it was on a paved road. It was also much closer to grocery stores. That's why they moved. They knew they were getting older at the time. They had knew they didn't want to have to drive a super far distance to the grocery store because they pretty much knew they were buying having built the last house they would ever live in. So they wanted to be relatively close to grocery stores, and well, that house had a paved road going up to the house and a paved driveway. But yeah, the house they had before it, that was a hard drive because it was a bumpy road. Also, that road they lived on is probably why I never learned to ride a bike. Uh, Probably would have been better if I'd learned to try to ride a bike on a paved road because that was a really bumpy road. All right, let's see here. This is a 500 megahertz processor. This processor was benchmarking like it was a 300 megahertz. And I believe, yeah, that's actually yeah, look at that. That my 500 megahertz processor is now benchmarking like a 500 megahertz processor. I'm going to have to go back to the old stream where I'm fairly sure that this processor was benchmarking closer to a 300 megahertz when I had it clocked at 500 megahertz. So I think this resistor mod might have actually fixed. I know Asus in BIOS version like 1007A for this board fixed an issue with 500 megahertz AMD K6-2s. But I kind of wonder if they were only patching a problem that was really that missing signal line. Because I'm quite honestly wondering if the 500 megahertz K6-2s really internally are the same silicon as the Plus CPUs, just with all the level 2 cache internal disabled. Jesse says to Hardware Hacker, that's still true in Waupaca County in Wisconsin. Yeah. All right, so let's run a couple unnecessary benchmarks here. $389.6. Wow. Okay. I think this 500 megahertz processor is working totally correctly. And it almost looks like this mod fixed its problem completely. Jesse says, way to pronounce that correctly, Justin. Wow. I probably, if I tried to pronounce it again, I'd probably screw it up. I would like to maybe credit the fact that I had Toastmasters today, so my brain is engaged with speaking. But I don't know. That doesn't necessarily mean my brain is engaged with speaking Thursday night after 9 o'clock. Although, our club had our club contests, because every year starts a contest cycle. Starts with the club level, then you go to the division, then you go to the area, then you go to the district, and then I think after that it's region, and then international. So, but we had our club contests today, and for the international speech contest in our club, I came in second. And for the table topics contest in our club, I came in first. So I get to move on to the area contest in the table topics contest. Yeah, Toastmasters does have competitions. They used to do it twice a year, but they since COVID, they went down to just once a year. Quite honestly, I think I'm going to suggest to our district that maybe we should bring back the district competitions in the fall. They were asking for ways to improve engagement, and that would certainly be something nice. Because I think the fall ones only ever went up to the district level anyways. Maybe I should recommend that maybe we should bring back the fall competitions in our district. Because that's fun to get a chance to... Soccer Ridge says, I haven't done competitive speech since high school. But yeah, anyways, I came in first in our table topics contest, so I get to go on to the area, which will be in 2 Saturdays. So that'll be fun. But yeah, Toastmasters has one contest cycle. It happens in, I guess, the spring to summer. And it's the international speech, and then they pair it with another contest. The international speech one is the one that goes up to the international level. I think the other contest always just goes up to the division. And this time around, they did table topics. I know last year our division did a Tall Tales, and I actually came in first, both in our club and in our area, but I had unfortunately, I couldn't, VCF East happened the same weekend as the division contest, so I couldn't go to the division contest. You had to be in person for that, so I didn't have an option to, like, find somewhere at VCF East to virtually connect and do it. So, anyways, but yeah, I've got the. But yeah, that was fun. The Tall Tales one's fun. I always like trying the Tall Tales one. That one's fun. They also do sometimes do an evaluation contest for the second contest. They rotate them around. But anyways, our player bench score is 23. If you can't tell by the fact that this is unusually smooth, because it usually doesn't look, I mean, it's still a little jerky, but this is starting to look pretty smooth. It got a 23. So that is actually really good. And yes, we will do the benchmarks everyone wants, Doom and Quake. $139.87 frames per second. I think we've hit a frame limit. Because I think that is about as high as you can get in Doom. I don't think the engine goes much faster than that. I do know that Doom does have an upper limit that it will not go any faster than a certain number of real ticks. And that, I think, is about the limit. Anyways, yeah, that is a great score for this processor. Let's see if the Quake time demo should run. And I think this processor will do decently at the default resolution. 81.3 frames per second. That's actually not bad. I think at the higher resolutions, though, Intel still held the advantage because they had the better floating point unit. But I think this looks like it would have still been a playable. Carter Hacker says, that's fast. Yeah. That is actually pretty fast. I mean, the thing is, these AMD processors for the K6 for the Super Socket 7 were actually fairly decent given the limitations of the Socket 7 platform. That was 35.6 frames per second. That would have totally been something you would have been totally happy with back in the day. Let's see if it'll run at 640 by 480. I don't know if it... Oh, actually, I think it actually is running at 640 by 480. Okay, this is kind of feels slow, but then again, it looks good. And I have a feeling this might be a high enough frame rate that you would have totally said, all right, I'm just going to play through it. Sure, your friends with the Intel Pentium 2s would have probably had a better time with Quake. But that is one thing about back in the day is sometimes you just played the game with what you had and suffered through the low frame rate. This looks like it might still be fast enough that you might have suffered through the frame rate just to have a bit higher resolution. But you could have totally played Quake on this motherboard. That was 14.8 frames per second. That is probably about what I would define as the lower limit of you would have suffered through it. So yeah, I would say that if you had a K6-2 500 back in the day, that you could have probably totally played at 640 by 480 and suffered through it. It would have been 15 frames a second. But the nice thing is, though, it looks like, though, if you lowered the resolution, Quake would have been totally playable. And that's Of course, I don't have a Pentium 2 set up with 500 megahertz. I guess it'd be a Pentium 3 at that point. I think Intel at one point was going to release a Pentium 2 500, but I think they waited until Pentium 3. Hardware Hacker says lower limit of, quote, acceptable. Yeah. So if you had a K6-2 500 system, if that was your family PC, I think Quake would have been acceptable at 640 by 480. And granted, this is, I've got a GeForce 2 video card, so it's definitely has the bandwidth for pixel pushing. And this is the ALI Aladdin 5 chipset, which I did some reading today. Apparently, the Aladdin 5 chipset was the better of the two Super Socket 7 chipsets. So, I mean, this board is great. I'm glad I did that resistor mod. Yeah, Jean-Francois says, always have budget CPUs till the early 2000s, went with higher resolution but lower details for most games. Hi, Brankus Creations. We have Bruce here. Hi, Bruce. I have done a resistor mod to this motherboard to allow it to run the Plus CPUs, the K6 Pluses. So I just tested it with a K6-2 non-Plus. I wanted to make sure the board was working before I risked a more valuable processor. So now that I've run some benchmarks and forgotten to write down any of the results. Oops. Let's take this K6-2 processor out. You know, it hardly broke a sweat. Yeah, it's like that either that's a good cooler or yeah, it probably is a good cooler. But yeah, these do require a fan. So, but actually, that's not really that hot at all. That's not bad. All right, let me see here. Well, that's a 533. Right, that's not the one I'm looking for. I stuck a bunch of processors in here in case we had time to try some different processors, or in case I started, like, in case I fried one, I at least had a couple more handy. We actually might try a few other CPUs just to see how compatible this mod is with other CPUs. But I'm looking for my K6-2 Plus processor. Here it is. Because before I try the K6-III Plus, I want to make sure because the K6-2 Plus, this one I got on eBay, it was like somewhere between 25 and 30 bucks plus shipping. So if I accidentally did something to it, then it's easily replaceable. I mean, yeah, it'll be a shame, but I can easily replace it. Because the thing is, it's a 2-volt processor. This board doesn't do 2 volts. So what I got to do is I got to set the board to 2.1 volts. Now I did some reading. There's a website that's got a fairly decent page on the K6-2 Plus and K6-III Plus processors, including modded BIOSes that add the plus support to BIOSes that for boards that never officially supported the plus processors. And it says that these processors do run do run fine at 2.1 volts, even though they're rated for 2.0. The absolute maximum voltage for them is 2.2 volts. And it said, yeah, you don't really want to do that because now you are probably going to prematurely wear the processor. But it said 2.1 volts is fine. Is that possibly going to... I mean, yeah, that could possibly also start to prematurely wear the processor. But I think the thing is, 2.1 volts is probably could be what some motherboards... I mean, I think AMD would have kind of expected that if you've got a 2.0, that some of your motherboards might be outputting 2.1 volts. So quite honestly, it's probably not as big of a deal as 2.2 volts. And in fact, some people said that when you set this board to 2.1 volts, it's really closer to 2.0. So I'm not worried about it too much, but we'll, Bruce says they had 50 millimeters or 2 inches of rain. Wow, that's a lot of rain for a day. I need to recap this board. It doesn't always post. I am going to go into the BIOS here real quick, though. All right, I did notice that it did say that this was a K6-2 Plus processor. So... oh, good. Okay. I was thinking that... oh, there we go. Oh, okay. I don't know why those are set to ignore by default, but... here we go, K6-2 450. Fan is running, because it is at least one thing I'm going to, since it is technically overvolted a little bit, I'm obviously going to make sure the fan is running. If something were to happen to the fan and it stopped spinning, I would power the system off right away. All right, but this processor is not officially supported by Asus. This is a beta BIOS that has added support for the Plus processors, and there we can see we are running K6-2 Plus 450. That is the correct clock speed, so I correctly configured it. CPU ID name string, K6-III. Interesting. But it is a K6-2 Plus. But that would make sense that its ID name string would be K6-III, because it's the same silicon, but half the L2 cache on board is disabled. So that actually makes sense that it would be reporting as a K6-III. You use the CPU ID and the I think an ID number it sends to tell the two apart in software. So I am going to run cache check to make sure that all the caches appear to be enabled. Don't believe cache checks processor frequency calculation, because we are definitely not running at... oh, thank you, hardware hacker. I am 96% of the way to my goal. That is awesome. Thank you, hardware hacker. I can smell the Silverball Pinball Arcade. Silverball Pinball Museum. They have a little concession stand. It's actually a really cool place. what would be cool if I just kind of, someone else might just push that right over the line, but no worries. So close. So far, though, let's see here. Oh, I think the L2 cache is so fast that it's the time is not really reportable by this tool. Now, this board has only 512K of L3 cache. It'd be L3 cache because I've got a plus processor in here. It'd be considered the L2 cache with a standard K6-2 or any other processor for the platform. But for the K6-2 Plus, the K6-III, or the K6-III Plus, since those three processors have an internal L2 cache, that would promote, or I guess demote, the cache on this board to an L3 cache. But the cache in all the K6-2 and 3 processors and all the variants, I believe they are all a full speed cache. So, oh, thank you, Mike's Future Retro. Welcome to Contently Satisfied. Oh, thank you, Hardware Hacker. Woot! Gotta do a little happy dance. Gotta sing a little song. Actually, I won't sing a song because that could get copyright struck. Thank you. All right, I have reached my goal. That is awesome. Thank you, Sadback. Sadback says congrats. Yes. Makes the end of my week feel much better. Soccer Ridge says, I heard that as full speed cat. And yes, my cat does attain full speed several times a day. Yeah. Because I had my got my the state inspection for my car Tuesday. Of course, they found something else. I'm waiting for the part to come in. I kind of thought it was slightly ridiculous that they didn't keep this $20 part in stock, other than maybe they rightfully don't replace it that often at all, but apparently one of the ground straps in the engine bay of my car is broken. It's a $20 part. I had to order it because it said, yeah, we don't keep that in stock. We don't replace them too often at all. But apparently one of the ground straps in my car broke. They actually took a little video of my car while they had it on the lift to show me the broken ground strap. It is definitely broken. That they are not lying. It kind of did look like it was probably corrosion-related breakage. I guess being a almost 17-year-old car, I like, okay. Depending on where, I couldn't tell exactly where it is in the engine, but I was like, okay, yeah, it probably corroded. It kind of looked like it was a spot where water and stuff could splash up from the road. So, anyways, it's like, okay, I'll wait for the $20 part to come in. That definitely should be replaced, because it does seem like the engine should be grounded, fairly well grounded to the rest of the car. So, yeah, that sounds like an important part. I would rather replace that than a computer module. It's like, yeah, gotta wait for the $20 part to come in. And now labor will be $87.50, but the part is only $20. And I briefly considered maybe trying to replace it myself, but then I did think back to the video and how it would take me several hours to replace it because I don't have a lift, and I don't have an impact wrench to get the bolts off. I would be doing it around all the obstructions, whereas they have the lift, put the car up on the lift, take the tire off, to really easily get in there, and they got all the tools. I'm like, okay, yep. I'm going to pay them to do this because I would rather this stay a $20 part plus $87.50 repair and not me have to pay more because I break something else. So, yeah, we'll just pay the mechanic tax. Oh, thank you, Mike's Future Retro. Mike says, I here you go. I hope this puts you over the top, and you need to see how bad you can beat me, or I beat you at some Bally Midway or Taito, Atari, or Williams arcade machines at Silverball. Woohoo! All right. Thank you, Mike. Yes, that'll be some Silverball Museum admission money. All right. There we go. The caches on this processor are so fast that this program actually does not see the actual L1 cache. There is an actual L1 cache in the processor. It's like 64K or I think it is a split cache though. So this program would see it as a 32K cache because it would be using the data side of it. But anyways, there we go. It's actually a decent cache speed. So I believe so far so good. Let's run our standard benchmarks. Oh yeah, I think the Hardware Hacker says, assuming that's in Wall. Actually, the Silverball Pinball Museum is in Asbury Park. But I'm fairly sure. Well, we'll find a way. Yeah, I think it's generally kind of a thing some people just know to do. But anyways, I'm recommending to do the Silverball Pinball Museum. There's usually a bunch of people that go Saturday. I think Saturday evening, Saturday night is generally when folks go over there. So, anyways, yeah. Oh, we have a 408.1. That is even faster than the 500 megahertz processor. Go plus processor. That's pretty good. Let's run the pointless Orby blobby thingy benchmark. Oh, and if anyone's wondering, Asbury Park, yes, that would be, that is the Asbury Park you were thinking of in terms of famous musician that name just went whew. Name just escaped my brain faster than a cat doing zoomies. Paul McCartney, is that the one I'm trying to think of? All right. Someone can correct me in the chat or the comments, I'm sure. The name escaped me faster than a cat doing zoomies, so it just went woo. Dinosaur ate the thought. All right, that's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. 45.5 frames per second. That's actually pretty good. Let's run the PC player. The 500 K6-2 500 had a score of 23. This is looking pretty smooth. Harder Hacker says, so it left your brain faster than the speed of light then. Yes, it did. 24.2. I knew that looked a little bit smoother. 24.2. All right, so I'm going to again, I think I can again recommend that if you are looking for a Super Socket 7 processor, that there is an eBay seller. I think they may still have some. That's got K6-2 Plus 450s. Not the fastest of them. Oh, there we go. We did 146.45. A new frames per second. Okay, so I guess we weren't quite to the frame limit with the 500. But we're getting closer to it. Anyways, this is a K6-2 Plus 450. I recently bought on eBay. We're gonna go straight to the high resolution Quake benchmark. Yeah, it's the unofficial Silver Ball unofficial meetup part of VCF East. Yeah. So yeah, it's in Asbury Park, which isn't too terribly far from Wall, but yeah, it's not in Wall. But it's definitely worth the trip. It's I want to say Silver Ball is like, at least last year, I want to say it was like $12 for an hour or $20 till the end of the day. So yeah, if you're going to be there for, if you know you're going to be there for more than an hour, just do the $20 admission. And you can leave and come back. So yeah, especially if you were in the area some other day and you kind of were thinking about it, yeah, that $20 all till the end of the day, they give you a I want to say they give you a wristband or stamp or something. It's good through the end of the day. So actually, that Quake speed isn't 14.9 frames per second. That's really not that much faster. Anyways, I was going to post that. So anyways, again, this is the processor that I am running with right now. I just posted the eBay link. Let's run the low resolution so we can at least see how fast it can get. But yeah, if you go to the auction listing, I paid $24.95 for this processor. It's a K6-2 Plus. In fact, I was actually tempted to buy another one to try to do the K6-III Plus upgrade on it. Basically, you move a resistor. 84 frames per second. That's actually pretty impressive. I've read that the faster ones are usually the chances of success is better on the faster ones, because I think those are the ones where AMD pretty much was just making them as non-plus units to be able to sell them. Because I think it was usually the lower speed ones were more likely to be binned and also to have bad cache, so that they were actually disabling it because there was bad cache. So, I'm not sure how successful the mod might be, but I was tempted to buy one, because I'd like to have one. I don't want to like destroy the only one I have if it doesn't work. So, but I was thinking of buying another one of these just to try it one day. So, yeah, I'm going to decline to publicly say where I'll be, but I will, Obviously, might I will let some folks know privately where I will be staying while I'm at VCF East, but I'm going to decline to publicly say. But yeah, Bruce Springsteen, thank you, Hardware Hacker. Yeah, not Paul McCartney. Bruce Springsteen, yep. Asbury Park. Same at one and the same Asbury Park. Thank you. I knew it would come to me later. It's just luckily Hardware Hacker put it in the chat. All right. Speed sys. Let's go ahead and speed sys this, and then we'll try a we might go all the way up to the K6-3 plus. All right, that benchmark, the mark on the benchmark looks about right for a 450 megahertz processor. It is somewhere between the Pentium 2 400 and the Celeron 500. That's about where I expected it to land. Oh, awesome! Jean-Francois says VCF East is a maybe for me. That'd be great. Yeah, hopefully this year I'll remember to say hi to Nick. Last year, because I was exhibiting, I didn't get a chance to say hi to Save the Day Nick. Because he came in from Canada. I follow him on Instagram on his photography. Well, I haven't seen him active lately. Maybe he's posted his photography somewhere else. But I'd intended to go say hi to him because I thought he was there, and I never actually got a chance to go say hi. So hopefully I'll remember to say hi to him next year. But yeah, I will have my hat on. I will not be exhibiting. I will be free to roam the halls as I please, as often as I please, and go to consignment as often as I please. Although not too often, because I won't be able to afford that. But anyways, and I've got this really cool backpack that I probably should have brought down for Wheel of Regrets. But I bought a cool backpack. It's so I will definitely have a place to put stickers and buttons. Yeah, consignment last year was really good. One nice thing about not exhibiting is I will be able to go to a consignment closer to when it opens. So I'm hoping there are a few things I would like to try to find at consignment. So actually I wish I'd thought of that option, Mike. That would have that that one didn't escape my mind. That one escaped my mind. Oh well. All right. So K6-2 plus 450. It was $24.95 on eBay. Outstanding performance. Quite honestly, if you're wanting a nice, Hardware Hacker says he'll have stickers, awesome. So if you're wanting a Super Socket 7 processor that won't break the bank, it's not the fastest of them. But if you have a board that supports the Plus processors, yeah, now don't, you'll really want a board that, you want to make sure your board supports 2 volts or 2.1 volts. And you want to make sure your board has a BIOS that supports the Plus processors. But if you meet those 2 requirements and you don't want to spend an arm and a leg and a kidney and a spleen, go check out that eBay auction that I linked, because this was $24.95 plus shipping, which for a Plus processor is, I would call that a really good price. Probably an excellent price. Okay, it's not the K6-3 Plus, but those go for a lot. But It's also possible, and I think I'm going to buy another one of these so I can try it. But it's possible you could turn it into a 3+ with the resistor mod. You got to delit it, and then you got to move a resistor. You got to remove. There's a resistor underneath the lid, and you move it from one set of pads to another, and then you cross your fingers and run some stability benchmarks. If the cache was disabled just to make the processor a 2+, then the cache may actually be functional, and you'll have a free upgrade to a 3+. But it might have also been made a 2+ because half the cache is bad, and which in that case, then you'll have to move the resistors back. There is a risk you might mess something up. Probably a bigger risk. Probably the biggest risk is in removing the lid. You might slip and go in too far and break something. But yeah, I mean, there's always a chance you break something. But anyways, I would call this an excellent deal. So hi, David Starbuck, welcome. All right, so let's see here. How about, it's 11 o'clock. How about let's try this processor. If I can get it out of the socket without mangling it. I would probably lose my geek license if I mangle this processor. So let's see here. Excellent. I don't have to change any settings on this board. I just plug and play, plug and play. All right. Let me set that down so I can set the board down. All right. So unlike that K6-2 that I only spent $24.95 on, I do have a K6-III Plus. And I spent $155 on it. Let's see if that was money well spent. Quite honestly, I think the K6-2 Plus at $24.95 is probably the better deal. This motherboard needs recapped. There we go. David Starbucks says, Harder Hacker asked David, do you get a discount at Starbucks? David Starbucks says, nope. I'd rather have a discount at PetSmart, to be honest. All right, so let's see here. So CPU Check does see this as a K6-III Plus, which is good. All right, so that's good. Let's just go for the goods here. Quite honestly, I'm thinking your best bet is a K6-2 Plus. Because I don't know that the extra L2 cache in the processor is, in a lot of cases, going to actually give you much more performance. Carter Hacker says, I'd like a discount at everything online. Yeah, I'd like a discount at eBay. Like a real discount, not I wait for some super cheap version of it to be listed and then buy it and it be a regret. Yeah, Jean-Francois says, when I bought my K6-2 Plus back in the day, what I really wanted was a K6-III Plus, but the price difference was significant. I think the pricing difference is still significant, and we only managed an extra 0.1 frames per second in that benchmark. So, yeah, I'm working backwards here. So for Quake, it's 640 by 480, not worth it. Probably not worth it then and not worth it now, because, yeah, it was a pretty significant difference in cost. In fact, I think that's only 2.9 frames more. Not... Hi, Jack. We got Jack68K here. Howdy ho, neighbors, he says. Yay. Yeah, I would say that, quite honestly, if you were going to... Yeah, I think the K6-2 Plus at $24.95 is probably your best bet. I mean, sure, we just got under 500 real ticks, but that's not a lot of frames per second more than the K6-2 Plus at the same clock speed. So I have to say, once again, is the price difference worth it now? No. Would I be tempted to... Would I be tempted to resell this K6-III Plus? And yes, I actually would be. I'm not that impressed with its performance, but I'll probably hold on to it. So at least I can do a video on... Yeah, here's the comparison. It's unless you're like rebuilding a computer you used to have, you're probably better off not trying to go for the 3 Plus. In fact, even the K6-III goes for a high enough price these days that in most cases, I would probably have to say try to find a K6-2 Plus. George something 5, welcome. Says, it's weird remembering high frame rates on old machines when thinking about today's. Jack says, more like a K6-III minus. Yeah, it's not... Yeah, player bench at 24.4. Again, I think that's 0.2 higher than the 2 Plus at the same clock speed. It's... I think this is the case of... Are there things you could have done that would have... where the extra cash would show a difference? Yeah, I'm sure there is. There are probably some things you could do where you would actually notice a difference with that extra cash. I'm struggling to find it now. David Starbucks says, high frame rates used to be 30 frames a second at 800 by 600. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm like, I guess if if you want to build a Super Socket 7 system today, there are deals to be had for the motherboards. I see them show up on eBay at a range of prices. I do see them show up at good prices. In fact, actually, not to spoil it, but I'm spoiling it. I actually have en route another Super Socket 7 motherboard, and I accepted the seller's offer of $80 for it. So you could get good prices on Super Socket 7 boards. Pair that $80 motherboard with a K6-2 Plus, that $24.95 one I found, plus like $7 or $8 shipping. So it was like $36 with tax and shipping. That would make you a fantastic Super Socket 7 system. Pop in like somewhere between 64 and... Oh, thank you, Jack68K. All right, we got more silver ball pinball money. In fact, we're starting to get into just a little bit of consignment money. Awesome, thank you. Yeah, K6-2 Plus processor, 64 to 128 megabytes of RAM, maybe 256 megabytes RAM if you want to run like some Windows 98 gaming. But for DOS, I think I only have 64 megs of RAM on here right now. I think that would make a decent, like, mid-tier DOS gaming system. Because there is something nice about these. I don't have the software on this hard drive. We will have to explore it sometime. But there is something nice about these AMD K6 processors, is that you can control the multiplier in software. So you configure it for its clock speed on the motherboard, and then if you want to play a DOS game that doesn't run properly on a fast system, you set the multiplier down to like 1x. Because I think you can software set the multiplier down to like 1x. You can set it pretty low. And I think you can turn the caches off too. So with this one platform, you can run... Probably can run a majority of the DOS games out there. Because you can use the software settings to turn the cache on and off and change the multiplier. And I think there's a few other things you can adjust. I think Phil's Computer Lab did a video on it. But you can actually tweak run the software and set it so that you can run more speed-sensitive titles. David Starbucks says 64 megabytes is the sweet spot for Windows 98. 64 gigabytes is the sweet spot for Windows 11. See how that works? Yeah, yeah. Jean-Francois says that would cover most of the games from the 90s. Yep, I think that would. And I am totally going to... Yeah, my Super Socket 7 boards, all of them are going to go in cases. I'll have 3. And there is a method to my madness. Because I like the Aladdin 5 chipset so much, I bought another one. But anyways, so here's my Super Socket 7 systems that I'm going to set up as a standing systems. So I have my second PC rebuild. I'm still trying to remember what processor I had in it. I don't know that I'll necessarily get the processor totally correct, but... So, I'm going... Now, unfortunately, it's not going to be as accurate as my first PC rebuild, because I have no photos of the system. I have vague recollections of what I had in it. Anyways, I'm going to try to rebuild the system. So, that one, though, I'm pretty sure I had a VIA MVP3 chipset board. I think I found the motherboard I had, or at least one like it. Hardware Hacker says, a method to your madness as opposed to the madness to your method. Yeah. Anyways, the second system, as I'm going to put this Asus board in something. It's a really nice board. It's got the Aladdin chipset. It's fast. It's an ATX board. I've got enough ATX cases that I'm probably going to put it in a case. David Starbucks says, I have a complete Super Socket 7 system that I bought like 8 years ago. I need to see if it works someday. And then, this board that I bought recently on eBay. In fact, I thought I was going to have an eBay regret story, but So, kind of the backstory as to why I was thinking we were going to have a regret is, so I had something to return to eBay last week. And while I was going through the return workflow, they asked me if I wanted a refund of my payment method or refund as a gift card. If you choose the gift card option, you get the refund immediately after you drop it off. I was like, I want to try to get this motherboard. The seller sent me an offer. I'll get the gift card option, and then I could just buy this motherboard and still have a little bit left over in the refund. It's like, I know I'm going to spend it. This is eBay after all. I'll try this option. And wouldn't you know it, the time I try this option, I go to the post office, drop it off, actually get a receipt, and it didn't track as en route until like Monday at lunch. And I dropped it off Saturday. I don't know why, but even though the post office scanned this return package, I have a receipt saying they accepted it. It did not show up on the online tracking as en route until Monday, sometime around lunch. That was quite annoying. However, as soon as it tracked as en route, eBay did give me the refund, so as the gift card. So yes, luckily no one else bought the motherboard, because I don't know how many people got the offer. eBay never tells you that. So there could have been other buyers that got the offer on this board. But anyways, as soon as I got the refund, I went to the offers page on eBay. And I went to that board and I accept offer, let's check out, and I bought it. So I was able to successfully get it. Yes, I call that an eBay win. I still got the refund in time to accept that seller's offer. It just was not as immediate as I'd hoped. Sakarin says, blame the joy. Yeah. Still don't know why it didn't start tracking immediately, because the receipt clearly says it was accepted. But anyways, Carter Hacker says, yes, blame the joy, since he removes the joy from using USPS. Yes, Jack, I think sadly he is still at the USPS. Mike's Future Retro is asking, a K6 board is an AMD Sempron or Duron processor board, or is that later on? Maybe that is a K7 board. Okay, so the K6 is a socket 7 processor. So all the K6, K6-2, K6-III, K6-III Plus, those are all socket 7. The Sempron or Durons were released with socket A, which came later. But between socket 7 and socket A, or otherwise known as socket 462, there was slot A, which is when Athlon was released. And then later, Athlon was still on socket A. I still think Intel names sockets worse than AMD. Not that AMD has always named sockets really great. But at least AMD has more sockets that don't refer to the number of pins in the socket than does Intel. So go figure. But anyways, yeah, K7 is going to be... K7 is like the internal name for Athlon. So yeah, that's going to be a later board than this. And yes, I have some K7 boards. They're really neat. Because when I was in college, I do remember upgrading my second PC at some point with another motherboard. And an Athlon XP of some sort. Although I don't remember which Athlon XP I bought. But yeah, I've got a number of like the socket A processors. I think some of the tricks to slow the clock speed might work on those processors as well. But you're starting to get to the point where you might be able to try some tricks to slow them down, but you're starting to get to the point where even the bus speed is fast enough that that's not enough um to run speed sensitive games. It's at least with the K6-2s. I think if you slow the clock down and start disabling caches, that usually gets it down to the point where you can run games like that were really written for a 386, 286, 386. Jack says the people who name sockets must work on naming USB standards in their spare time. Yeah, I was reading an article on this new socket that someone invented. Basically, it was a USB-C socket that you bolt onto the motherboard. It's so you can replace the socket if you break one. And this socket, the article says, or yeah, the picture caption had to say something like, this, the vendor claims the socket will work with like USB 4 Gen 2 something something something, and then there was a parenthetical note from the editor. Yeah, we're not sure where they're, or the parenthetical note was like something snarky like, we're not sure when the USB names got this bad. I wish I could remember where that article was. It might have been Ars Technica, but it might have been somewhere else. And I was like, yeah, USB names have gotten out of hand. It's like, this is ridiculous. I think at this point there's probably 4 or 5 names for the same USB spec, just because it's like, yeah, it's like high speed. Yeah, okay. I think USB's always been bad about naming things, because tell me again, what's the difference between USB full speed and USB high speed? Like, uh, yeah, you're right. Anyways, yeah, Mike's Future Retro says, the Duron Simpron Athlon is where I began my PC build journey outside of my Macworld collection. So, yeah. Oh, I was trying to, this Super Socket 7 board I got that I wanted to get for $80. Yeah, so you all might remember, some of you might remember, last year at some point I bought an AT desktop case that was black. And it's not that someone had painted it black. It was black from the factory for an AT desktop case. I hadn't remembered many AT desktop cases being black. So it might have been a special order from some vendor or something, or a very late AT case. Anyways, I finally decided what I wanted to put in that case. And I have a Sound Blaster Audigy with the front panel drive thing, whatever they called that. I guess that was the live drive. And I decided that, at least for now, I wanted to put it in that black desktop case. And I decided that, at least for now, I kind of thought I would do it Super Socket 7. Might not be quite the right match, but like, I thought, okay, that might be an interesting combo. I think it meets the minimum system requirements for it. I think it's an Audigy. I'm trying to read what I've got it setting on the shelf over there. I think I can see the logo. It says Audigy. I think most of the Audigy cards of that era will run on Windows 98. I know K6-2 or something is fast enough for Windows 98. But I thought, yeah, that would be pretty cool to put that in it because it's got the MIDI ports on the front and the audio and whatnot. Like, yeah, that would be a cool system to do that in, but I need a motherboard that's AT to fit in it. So I was like, I went on eBay and I found the one I liked and waited till the seller sent me an offer, and the offer was $80. I was like, okay, that's about what I'm willing to spend for that project. So that's not to say that I'll leave it a K6-2 Plus or K6-2 or whatever. But I thought I would start with that and see how well that worked. But I do know for AT style cases, there are some slot 1 AT motherboards that are fairly easy to come by. Although they do kind of go for a bit much, but then after past that, you're really looking at a socket 370, because there are a few socket 370 AT style boards, although not many. I have one that came in a computer I bought at LNY Electronics. I was like, no, I don't really want to go socket 370 because it's actually like, no wheel of regrets tonight. I didn't feel like dragging the pile of boxes downstairs because two of them are. I really need to take the two of the items out of their box and just carry the item downstairs. But I didn't do that. Yes, it is regrettable. We will. I am planning on doing that Tuesday. Anyways, that's the story of the potential regret of the refund not getting issued before that motherboard sold. Jack says, push the box down the stairs. That'll ensure it's a regret. Spoiler alert, I bought 2 cases, and that's why I don't really want to bring them downstairs in the box. Because while the case is not really that hard to carry down the stairs, it's the awkward size of the box needed to pack and ship a case that makes it awkward, and I just want to carry the case downstairs. Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to have anything at consignment at VCF East. I don't really, because I'm not really going to have time to prepare stuff for consignment. I may, I mean, I might have some things, but at the moment, I'm not going to have anything at consignment to sell. Now, the system source swap meet, maybe I might have some things then. But yeah, then again, though, the number of things that I'm really looking for at VCF East, honestly, probably what I'd really like to look for at VCF East are like components more so than whole computers. RAM of certain styles, I definitely could use some RAM. I wouldn't mind finding a few spinning hard drives, maybe a few optical drives that are IDE, especially if they're beige. Maybe a couple floppy drives. Just some miscellaneous parts. Maybe a couple cooling fans. I could use a couple cooling fans. I don't really need any whole computers. Don't really need any motherboards at this point. I think I'm pretty good on motherboards. Unless I found something really weird. George something 5 says intergalactic microsystems in Michigan has a wide selection of memory. Yes, but I guess I'm looking for a chance. Maybe I should have rephrased. I'm looking for the chance to maybe buy some things at consignment that are more of the at the enthusiast to enthusiast price level. I support eBay like 11 months out of the year, seemingly. VCF East is my one opportunity to make really get a chance to get things at a better deal. I mean, yeah, the swap meetup is System Source too, but yes, I've bought from Intergalactic Microsystems. I know I have. Anyways, here I am staring at chat, and I think I've done exactly what I intended to do to this board. I've installed the resistor mod, and I see that this board works with the K6-2 and the K6-III Plus, and yeah, I'm like, that's a good stopping point. It's progress, yeah. Now I just have to decide which processor to leave in the system, but that's going to, I'm going to decide that by, if I can try to remember which processor I had in my second PC. Because I seemingly remember in my second PC, at some point after starting college, I seemingly remember buying a K6-2 or 3 of some sort. Because I think I bought a motherboard that I knew I could upgrade to that. And then I think in college I did at some point actually do the upgrade. But the thing is, I'm just trying to remember which I had. At one point, because the thing is, I thought at some point maybe I had a K6-III Plus. Because I was thinking that maybe I did splurge and just go ahead and buy the top end one because it had the 3D Now enhanced instructions. But the more I think of it, the more I realize that no, I'm not sure I did that because there was a fairly decent price difference. And maybe I only had a K6-III, or maybe I just had a K6-2 Plus. Yet Harder Hacker says we somehow managed to keep the magic smoke inside all the components with none escaping. Yes. Oh yeah. Jack says, let's see here. Jack says those were super popular then and the motherboard sucked. Yeah. I think I now know I think it was the VIA chipset wasn't as good as the ALI chipset. But because I think this board is faster than my MVP3 board that has more cache on it. I think this board is faster. I think the ALI chipset is faster, but I want to say that some of their early drivers were worse. And it took them a while to have stable drivers for, especially the AGP. AGP was like, I remember some of the early drivers were like really bad with AGP. I think I think they did finally release some stable drivers, but I'm going off memory of building SuperSocket 7 systems with both chipsets. I think even the MVP3 chipset, some of the early drivers for it were really bad too. But I want to say ALI, the chipset was faster, but some of the early drivers were really bad. I think with the MVP3 chipset, it wasn't as fast, but the early drivers were better, but the chipset itself wasn't as fast. I think at the end, the both did finally release more or less respectable drivers that were usable, but I'm going off memory. I could be wrong. I do know, though, that what Wikipedia says is AMD instituted a validation program for the Athlon platform because they wanted good chipsets, which kind of validates my memory of there being issues with both chipsets for Super Socket 7, or really all three, because I think there was an SIS chipset as well. But I think that SIS chipset was used on boards that didn't usually have an AGP slot because they used the integrated graphics on the SIS chipset. So some would argue, well, then it's not Super Socket 7 because you don't have AGP. I think technically Super Socket 7 is really 100 megahertz frontside bus. But I do see that, yeah, maybe it really needs to have AGP. Yeah, Jack says, yeah, because they were mad their chipset vendors made their good CPUs less good. Yep. Oh, yeah, believe me, I don't miss this era. But the IRQ and DMA and plug-and-play conflicts, yeah. Although, honestly, I think at this point of motherboards, because a lot of the functionality is integrated on the board at this point, I think it was reducing the number of conflicts you did have. And the way PCI handles interrupts helps. You're less likely to have a conflict with PCI than ISA. But yeah, those conflicts were the worst. So, anyways, so yeah, I guess the next steps with this board. Yeah, I'm starting to get tired, so I may end the stream here a little bit before midnight. Get um get my rest tonight. So anyways, if I can remember which processor I had in my second PC, then that'll probably determine which one I put in here. I am very much tempted, though, to put the K6-2 Plus in this board. Though, because even though it's a lower clock speed, it performed really good. It performed well in this board. Better than this K6-3 Plus. And maybe I might put the K6-3 Plus in my second PC rebuild. Only because, I mean, it is a good spot for it. I don't know. I gotta decide what I had. When I get a chance, I'm going to search my old emails one more time and see if I can find a breadcrumb as to which one I had. Unfortunately, though, I don't know that I have the emails from that time period. I lost the backups. Because I think I might have been running Linux at the time. Oh, thank you, Hardware Hacker, for the super sticker. Yes. Yes, there was a time period in college where I was running Linux. And so my emails were in some Linux-based program, and so I don't have them imported into my Mac right now. Or anything. Because I have some really old emails that I think were from the beginning of college era. And then I've got emails from like right after college. I don't know that I used Thunderbird. But I don't remember what I was using. Honestly, but I only had them on a backup and I lost the backup. So yeah, so there's some emails I don't have. And I think that's probably the time period when I bought the processor or sold it. So, but that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an email from either where I bought it or I sold it. And that will be the clue I'm looking for. As for my second PC, I remember what the case was. Because it was a very iconic case. It was an in-win case. I actually specifically bought an in-win case because I wanted a case that would last a long time, and I like the in-win cases. So I know I had an in-win A500, I believe it was. So that was easy. I remember the motherboard only because it was an Epox motherboard, because it has a very distinctive arrangement for it. All right, good night, Mike. We'll talk to you later. But the processor had on it. That's the part I'm trying to remember, because I think I know what sound card I had in it, more or less. And I think I know what graphics card I had in it, more or less, because it was what my boss was selling at the time I put the computer together. But it's the processor that's the sticking point. But anyways, George something, George something 5 says, I used a case for 15 years. I had 3 or 4 systems in it. Yeah, actually, I would have used that in-win case longer. I did finally replace it in college, because there was one problem with the one I had, and that was the power supply was mounted on its side over top of where the CPU was supposed to be mounted in the case, based on Intel's, I guess, one of Intel's original ATX specs. The problem is, I'd upgraded that system in college after having upgraded it to a K6, faster K6 of some sort. Near the end of college, I remember buying an Athlon XP motherboard and processor for it, and I had a problem where it was overheating the processor because the CPU fan was blowing air into the case, right on top of the heatsink for the Athlon XP processor that was blowing air. No, it was the other problem. So, oh yeah, that's right. So the CPU fan was blowing air out to pull air through and the cooling fan was blowing. It was basically the airflow was just completely wrong. So I ended up buying another case that had the power supply mounted, so it wasn't conflicting with the processor fan. That fixed that problem, but yeah. Or something 5 says, I had a thermal take armor full tower. That was a problem back then too. Yeah. Anyways, so I know what case I had. It was totally fine for a Super Socket 7, but once I went to Athlon XP, it was power supply was mounted wrong, because the ATX spec had been updated, and yeah, that's why cases stopped doing that. I think there were a number of cases, early ATX case, where the power supply was mounted over top the processor, but then Intel changed the spec, and that became a place where you don't want to put the power supply. I think it was the Inwin S500 fixed the power supply location, and I have one of those cases too. I did a case swap with Gut Bomb. I've got the case around here somewhere. I don't know where I put it. I bet it's on the bottom of a shelf for some weird reason. Anyways, yeah. So, that's the second PC rebuild. Probably not as exciting as my first PC rebuild, because my first PC rebuild was based off a blurry photo. It's actually an authentic rebuild, short of a few parts that I haven't been able to find the exact part. Although, knock on wood, I do have a hard drive incoming from eBay that it's not the same exact hard drive, but it's close, and the seller says it's tested working with the return warranty, so we'll see. Anyway, I think that's about where I'm going to wrap the stream. I'm glad y'all could join me for this. Let's apply a mod to the Asus motherboard and see if it fixes compatibility with processors. And the verdict is yes. Jack says, you know you're in deep when you're buying spinning rust. Yep. I really want to be able to try to run my first PC rebuild the way I had it and rate my build. Knowing what I know now, I want to rate my original build, benchmark it, benchmark drive performance, benchmark memory performance, benchmark processor performance, graphics performance, and then see how well I did. I will rate 16-year-old me, 17-year-old me. Yeah, and I probably be a bit rough because I could have probably done better, but I want to get to the point where I can actually run my build the way I would have had it, where it matters most. So I can't find the CD-ROM drive I had. I think, given how fast CD-ROM drives got faster, and it probably wasn't a great drive to begin with, I just have yet to see it show up on eBay. So, but we don't really need to benchmark the CD-ROM drive because we can just use... That's at least one thing that computer manufacturers weren't, like, at least at that time period, they weren't, like, cheating. It was a 16-speed CD-ROM drive I had, and it ran at 16 speed. Now, some of the faster ones cheated a little bit. Were they constant linear velocity, or, like, some of the other ways that, like, they would say, yeah, this is a 52-speed drive, CLV, or something like that. So in reality, it's like, yeah, for part of the drive, it's reading it at 52 speed, but get to another part of the disk and, yeah, it's running slow. It's reading slower. Yeah. Jack says 52 speed, lol. So anyways, with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Glad you could hang out with me in the chat. See me mod a board. I don't usually do that. I am leaving this mod on the board because it works. And I'm actually glad to see that it actually did fix the problem with the 500 megahertz processor, even though that was a K6-2, and that mod was supposed to be for the Plus processors, but it seems to have fixed the problem with that processor too. So, I don't know. Maybe there was some manufacturing variability in the 500 megahertz processors, and maybe this one needed a stronger pull-up on that line. I don't know. Anyways, yep, I hope to see you all here next time. So, Tuesday, I think Tuesday we're going to finish up the PlayStation 2, and then we'll get on to Marcintosh. Since these resistors came in yesterday, I really wanted to try this mod. So I decided that, okay, we're going to do this before March, because I can work on a PlayStation 2 during March with the excuse of, well, I gotta have some fun sometime. But I was like, I'm not going to want to drag the Asus board out until April. But I just got these resistors. I really want to try this. So I'm glad you all joined me for this adventure. It works. So now I've got multiple boards that work with the Plus processors. So do I recommend this mod? Yes, it actually works. Jack says Asus April. But yeah, I need to get some water. My throat is ready for water, or it's going to stop working. So anyways, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Hope to see you here Tuesday. We'll finish up the PlayStation 2, and then we'll kick off Marcintosh on Thursday. So smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when I go live next. And with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Take care, and God bless. Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support. I hope to see you next time. And until then, take care.